You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the Ecosystem Show. We're thrilled to have you with us. Here we challenge traditional mindsets and explore innovative approaches to maximizing the value of your software estate. We don't expect you to agree with everything. Challenge us, share your thoughts, and let's grow together. Now, let's dive in. It's showtime. Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to be on the show. It's like Sparrow my time, meaning it's very early in the morning with all the time zone changes. But I'm excited to see Mr. Dorrington is in the house, one of my favorite people in the world. And Will, I am keen to hear the update of my new gym equipment that I'll be buying later in the year to follow in the steps of your new gym equipment. What are you up to?
So on that alone, I've been using Spedients, and it's phenomenal. It's the first time I've seen a bit of innovation in the home gym for a long time. So we'll be sure to drop the link to the YouTube video there, but we don't get endorsed by that. I want to add. Feel free for them to reach out to us. But
are you finding the resistance training works well? Like, you know,
it's phenomenal. It really is, and it just feels like weights. I mean, Chris came over and done the neighborly thing and helped me lift it up and had a go on it, and it was fantastic. You know, it is really good. Chris, don't you have any thoughts on that? With you being the gym king that you are,
mate. I actually. So honestly, I thought it was going to be sketch. I was like, okay, resistance training is okay. I always felt like resistance training is a bit lame because it's kind of cheating. Like, I pick up heavy things and put them down again. But after doing this, I was like, actually, this is very freaking cool. I like it. And the thing that I love about it is that it kind of auto adjusts as you can set it to auto adjust as you go. So, when you're like busting out that, 100 kilogram bench press that Andrew does regularly, then you realize that and you can't get the last rep in.
I don't even know. I don't really even have a firm grasp of how much 100 kilograms weighs. So I
that's how strong he is. It means nothing to him.
Andrew, do you remember those times we used to run and like jump and cuddle me? Imagine I did that to you. Yes.
Ooh, that's no good. That's no good.
Yeah, it is so good. Yeah. Anyway, Mark, in short term, it works.
Nice.
Well, to quote the great Forrest Gump, I have been spending my time exercising my arms.
Oh wow!
But it's what is great, and to bring it back to that is, although it's resistance training, all it does is mimic the weight, right? It goes up to 100 kilos, and obviously it knows the amount of resistance that equates to a kilogram. So you've got this ability to have a home gym that doesn't weigh a ton, that you have to have a load of plates or weights with, that goes up to 100 kilogram difference. You have a ring that goes on your hand that you can adjust. So if you're drop setting or upsetting, you can literally just adjust the weight as you go. Any workout you can do at a gym's there. I mean, it is a little bit expensive, but for actual innovation, and does a lot of AI coaching, adjusts to your goals, what you're up to, your fatigue, etc. It's just next level. It's really good. Yeah.
You sold me on AI.
It is cool. The thing is, though, dude, honestly, there's nothing like a good dumbbell.
What I found last year, in hindsight, was that the Black Friday sale is just ridiculous, and it's their only sale a year.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I've already measured up for where it's going, and I'm ready for the Black Friday sale, and then I'll be on.
My biggest advice is go harass them. Honestly, their sales team want to sell, and if you said, "Look, if you offer it to me for the Black Friday price, I'll buy it today," they'll give you a link. It gets attributed to them. I'll tell you another thing about AI, though, and a nice little segue is: have you seen what the US has published recently around their their driving usage within federal agencies?
In the last 2 days, right? In the last 2 days.
Yeah. Will has seen it in the last 4 minutes since we discussed it just before.
Have you seen? I was trying to get us back on track.
Nice. I have seen it. I read it as bedtime reading last night. It came out on the 7th, which was the 8th our time, and it's the 10th today, so it's in the last 48 hours. It's very interesting because for all the public bluster, it's actually got a bit of good guidance, I feel, in there around responsible AI and a lot of benefiting America, benefiting America all the way through. And I always just find when countries do that, it reminds me of a dog pissing on a street light, like this is my territory. And it's something like when I went to Belfast in Ireland, the British have their bunting flags up everywhere, and I don't see it anywhere in Britain, but in Belfast. And I said to the cab driver, man, it's like the Brits are here pissing on every flag post to make sure you're really clear it's British. Well, he was massively offended. I'm British. He said, well, I'm British. What do you mean? I'm not Irish. I'm like, mate, you sound Irish to me. And wow, he just reached back and grabbed me. And
Mark, and I remember you telling the story. That was an absolutely stupid thing to say to the cab driver. I have no other way around it.
Yes, I know. But, I'm a little... see how you...
Oh, you're irritating? I'm... Color me. This is my shocked face here.
Exactly. Seeing here, thoughts on what the US have said, doing?
Yeah, so it's really it's interesting. First of all, the fact that responsible AI even landed in this thing as a phrase is the first indication that we have that Elon Musk obviously didn't read it. So I joke. I'm sure he's very responsible.
You're gonna land yourself in border control, my friend.
I know. No, but it's actually it's quite interesting. First of all, you do have to get. So I'm reading off of they did a fact sheet, and I'm sure we can put this thing in the show notes. They did a fact sheet, and there's some funny things in here, right? Like there's a line in the first paragraph. These policies fundamentally shift perspectives and direction from the prior administration, focusing now on utilizing emerging technologies to modernize the federal government. The executive branch is shifting to a forward-leaning, pro-innovation and pro-competition mindset rather than pursuing the risk-averse approach of the previous administration. So, I mean, it's on brand, right? Like we had a whole preamble that had to trash the Biden administration, which did just make me laugh. Like, can you just publish a document and get to the point, or do we have to see this play out again? But neither here nor there. But I'm looking here. So a couple of things that I thought were really interesting that stood out to me. First of all, section 2, big, bold letters, all caps, promoting rapid and responsible AI adoption. It's almost like someone like the Ecosystems podcast wrote that heading. And, it goes on to talk about how chief AI officers chief AI officers within federal agencies are tasked with promoting agency-wide AI innovation and adoption for lower risk AI, mitigating risks for higher impact AI, and advising on agency AI investments and spending, which that made me laugh. It was like, oh my God, they read our white paper about incremental and differential AI and how to balance your portfolio of risk. That's amazing.
I was going to say, do you not find it interesting, though, that if you look through that and we had a bingo card of all the things you'd hope to see, they've got the words there. The bit that I find missing, and Mark did call me out saying, Andrew, I got about 3 minutes ago, but through the quick skim read I have, I can't see anything that goes right. Here's the criteria for classifying high impact and what it means to you. Here's actually an ethical framework. Here's how you can actually classify and do the risk classification. Here's how you map, manage, and measure risk. It's just like, we're going to do this. We're going to get someone who's actually responsible, but go off and figure it out.
Can we drop a link to Cloud Lighthouse and the Center for Trustworthy AI in the chat? Because it's like almost like I know someone who has these things.
But the key thing there,
he's right.
It's all the right words, but with none of the context behind it. So where's
it's like
it going?
a GPT wrote it, right? It's like I've got 3 of these open right here. So I've got this one, I've got the 50-point plan by the UK, and I've got the newest one by the EU AI Pact called the AI Continent Action Plan. So I've got 3 of them open, right? When you go into the UK 50-point plan, it all brings it down to things like infrastructure. It's really detailed. And actually, even the 50 points drill into layers and layers and layers of content, right? And that's the UK one, by the way. When you go into the new AI Continent Plan, Action Plan, just go and look at the Q&A. I'll stick the links in the chat. They break it down so beautifully of like computing infrastructure, data skills, developments, but they bring out the human-esque part of it. Whereas when I look at this, I'm like, how many GPTs did you run this through to make these words? Right. And without being mean, It's the meat that I'm missing.
But look at the political narrative as well of encourages private sector led AI innovation, promotes US made AI. It's going back to that sort of charge again. Yeah.
I also do think that there's a bit of a so some cultural context is necessary here in that just anecdotally speaking, Europeans love detail in a way that Americans really hate, right? So I think part of that is simply like if you were to give this topic to American government writers and then give it to European government writers, the Europeans will produce 10 times more words every time. Yes. And I go back to that book, The Culture Map, right? That we've talked about many times on this show about like Americans are light on details and now let's just go do it. So there's a little bit of cultural context there. And I cannot believe that you guys have just backed me into defending the Trump administration on something.
That's the podcast. That's it. It's not. Do you not find, though, even with that in mind, the low detail, I do respect that. And let's face it, we're much more risk adverse in EU and UK. Think of GDPR Act and how we put that in and how as soon as AI came in, let's face it, we're like, so.
I think we're much more citizen forward in the EU. Like, there's more of a stronger focus on citizen protection.
I was trying to be nice by saying conservative. But it's still that focus on they want to drive innovation, but as long as it's, and I don't mean this is not a political point, it's a curious point. As long as it's domestically driven AI innovation. I don't obviously, and let's face it, the US are smashing some of the AI game. They've got some of the best models, etc. But it's interesting. Their focus is on US made rather than going, let's see how we can innovate, collaborate more openly than that.
Dynamics Minds is one event you don't want to miss. Microsoft product managers and industry leaders from all over the world converge in Slovenia to explore the latest in Dynamics 365, the Power Platform, and Copilot. Expect 3 days of in-person community connection, trailblazing insights, and a location sure to inspire our creativity. Early bird tickets are on sale now, and podcast listeners get 10% off by registering via the link in the show notes. Hope to see you there.
I don't know that the US do. I think everybody tells us that the US does. And this is why I love the book, that you recommended, Will, The Coming Wave, by Mustafa Suleyman, is because he clearly has a wake-up call in there at how advanced China is.
It's a great book, right?
He refers to the US had their Sputnik, when Sputnik was launched, that kicked the space race off. Globally, it was American, was like, oh my gosh, the Russians are beating us. And he said China had their Sputnik moment when he was at Google and AlphaGo for the second time beat the reigning champion in the world in China.
Yep.
And the whole Chinese government system, legal system, etc., said that was their Sputnik moment. And I think they're potentially way beyond even what they're letting out in market and their advancements in the space.
There are, I think that the most recent, one of the more recent, not the most recent, but one of the more recent really high profile bits of this was when DeepSeek hit the market and everyone freaked out and saw what this thing, could do with much relatively less computing power, right, than what some of the other models that are out in the market can do. So I think that it is becoming increasingly clear that the US and the countries that joined with the US on this to kind of choke China's capacity to build artificial intelligence, that mission has not gone well, right? It has become increasingly clear that China is very, very much in the game.
Look at the benchmarking and look at the parameter size. And, I absolutely agree. I think US, China are still sort of at the forefront there.
Yeah.
There is a conversation to have as well, which goes back to that sort of, the coming wave type approach, which is with the political environment we've got going on at the moment, and now the race against AI, we know that AI, if it gets out of hand and it does become should we do it or we have to do it because otherwise they're going to beat us to it.
Yeah.
that creates a huge risk. And with tensions at the moment, it's a very interesting place to be.
Dude,
would you have believed
right.
10 years ago the world would be so much more fractured? I feel that I always thought, we were going to a global worldview and everything. And I think what's happened this year is now nationalism and protecting my nation state has become so much more the focus. I listened to a press release from the CEO, the I don't know what he's called, the president or prime minister of Singapore this week.
Let's go with CEO.
Something
I prefer that.
Very unusual to do. Yeah. And he was, his speech is so sobering that he believes we're going to a much more fractured world than ever before with what's happening, and that, these be dark times that are looming. Yep. And I'm like, wow, I'm hearing this thread a lot more. Mo, the guy that wrote, he wrote a book on AI. He was the CEO of Google Moonshot programs. And the first book I read from him was Solve for Happy. I've talked about this before. But he wrote a book on AI, and his latest podcast is talking about us going into a 10-year dark period of where AI is going. And I'm like, I'm always now in this position. I'm like, I'm so excited about what AI is doing, and that there's these people that are way more knowledgeable than me in the space are starting to talk cautionary tales type thing, fractured nation states, and they're what's coming through quite strongly. It's not just the risk of individual bad actors, it's nation bad actors coming much more to protect their national interests.
I think that we could teach a semester, or rather an entire PhD program on this topic. But I think that, let's separate the AI implications from what's happening kind of fundamentally under the covers, right? And at a more base level. And it is absolutely true. It's absolutely true that across the world, the political mood and parties and candidates, they are sweeping to power, or at least coming within spitting distance of power, that support increasingly nationalistic, nationalist, isolationist tendencies. And I think there's a lot of reasons on that. This is something that this is very, very close to sort of my first interest before I broadened my horizons into tech. So guys, stop me before we go too far. But yeah, this is even setting aside AI, this is a serious problem. And I think that it's probably it's a problem that we could have seen coming. I think that folks in the technology world or in the global business world, or kind of the global, the globalized world, really did not do a good job at all. And this is an understatement, of bringing their fellow citizens along for the ride. That is absolutely true. But yeah, I do think that when you then add into that the dangers that are inherent in, we talked about this on a recent episode, the dangers inherent to AI's ability to process and to interpret and to understand an ungodly amount of data that is nothing that human beings can imagine. Yeah. I think that these are going to be, the world is going to be very different for at least a few years, and I don't think it's all good. In fact, much of it is not good.
You mentioned its ability to process large amounts of data. We've heard a lot about agents and that they are going to do a whole bunch of stuff for us. And I hate the term at the moment, the overuse. I don't hate the term, the overuse of the word autonomous agents. Because
I haven't seen one.
I've never seen one.
That's because they don't exist. That's because it's Power Automate. That's all it is. It's Power Automate.
I think, as Donna put it, it's
sparkling automation.
Sparkling automation. It's from
automation.
What did she call it? How do you say Champagne? The autonomous region of Champagne. She said it's not from the autonomous region of sparkling automation.
Yes. It's dumb. So first of all, I want to tell you guys something wild, right? Like, so just back on Andrew's point, China is really big on WeChat, right?
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you have a thing called pay by palm in China. So you don't carry your phone around you carry no cards around with you, and you pay with your palm. Right? Now, that's interesting, right? Because that turns this really weird in the fact that if I am going to pay for something, I don't have to carry stuff around. But the concept of bad actors in this scenario makes it way more difficult, because now you have a thing attached to your body that people want. Right? So that is AI. And
I've always had that.
Well,
I saw his face light up, and I knew it was
he's just so happy. He's just so happy. But isn't that scary? Anyway, so that's one thing. The other thing is this.
Yeah, both.
It's the bald part.
For those who are listening to this without the video feed, I am burying my face, my head in my hands.
I think it's the greatest thing. You gotta line him up. You gotta line him up though. The other thing that's interesting, so this agents thing, I'm going to call bullshit, and I'm going to say it right now. I think that there are a lot of people that are like, oh, we're making agents in this technology, and we're chaining them. So I put out a post recently. I'm like, okay, show me. I'm like, show me how you're doing this. I want to see how all of you genius people are doing this. And I got maybe 5 responses, and none of them were accurate. And I'll tell you why. Because number one, an agent requires orchestration and memory. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I'm not even going to start there. I'm going to start with autonomous agents. So we have a thing in Copilot Studio called an autonomous agent. Okay. Up until extremely recently, in fact, the 2nd of April, we only got agent flows, which is basically Power Automate in Copilot Studio. And then we discovered we had a thing called a trigger where you can invoke an agent. Now, tell me this. How is an agent autonomous if you don't have a mechanism of firing it? Well, you do now with the triggers, okay? But it's just follow. It's been Power Automate for years. So I started digging into a bunch of other areas. Now, not AutoGen, because I'm not a coding expert, right? So I'm happy to be kept honest here. But I'm working on a project right now in where we are using semantic kernel, okay, in Azure AI Foundry. We're generating agents using semantic kernel. We are putting the correct descriptions in. We have found no way to orchestrate and plan them, okay? Because the planner functionality isn't there that we found. So I'm happy to be told it is. And if somebody can show me, and I would love to be shown. So if somebody can sit me down and physically show me, there is a way to have 5 agents that you build with deeply discernment or deeply descriptive information about the agent and what it does. And you can physically fire off those agents based on an orchestration engine and a planning engine. I want to see it, because all I can see now is deterministic chaining between agents.
Yeah.
That's all I can see. I cannot see anything that's intelligent. So I'm calling bullshit.
Wait, and again, I think we talked about this on a recent episode in a different form. We weren't specifically talking about agents, right? But we were talking about how if your experience with AI, right, is in general purpose AI, right? So Copilot or ChatGPT or a general purpose AI development tool, something that is meant to bring AI development to lay people, right? Like to folks who are not data scientists, who are not engineers specializing in the field, right? I think that a lot of this right now can seem and feel very underwhelming, right? The real capacity and the real capability that I think is very impressive in the world of AI right now are very high end, purpose built scenarios, purpose built solutions, right? So I do think that to some extent the rush to get consumer grade agents, autonomous agents into market is in a way hurting the story, right? Because
In a
they're
way,
coming to market, they're very underwhelming. They're very underwhelming compared to what I think people expect, and they are underselling to the average observer capacity and the capability that is out there beyond the reach of the casual observer.
Dude, it's in in breaking that down, what I'm seeing is extremely watered down.
Yes.
And in order to achieve true agentification, you have to write like reams and reams and reams and reams of code. Like really, and I've seen it. I've seen the introductory course to agents. I've seen what it can do. Microsoft have done a good job of that. But AI introductions, it's hardcore. Like we got some great code snippets from it, by the way, and I recommend looking at it. But if you are inexperienced in writing code and you don't know how to build function apps, okay, to drive action, like you don't have an agent. Sorry, you have at best a thing that does retrieval augmented generation, and maybe at best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, in defense of all of this, I will say that 2 years ago, right, or even 18 months ago, the idea of real consumer grade RAG it seemed very far off, right? Now I think that we all looked at it and we said, okay, it's not actually as far off as it seems, right? So in the grand scope of IT time, right? The fact that we've gone from where we were 18 months ago on consumer grade RAG to especially the ability of lay people and folks again who are not experts in this to generate fairly decent AI scenarios that are fairly decent.
Oh, dude, it's a chatbot on data. It's not. It's a chatbot on data, mate. You can do this with search. This is not rocket science. This is applying search to a chatbot and whacking some data in there, right? Like the fact that it's generative is fine, but it's not. This is not rocket science.
Sure.
What I think is rocket science is so my post said I had a picture of 3 agents and I said, how do I link them? How do I make this truly autonomous, and how do I make this create this orchestration engine? And this is it, because not many people could tell me. There are 3 posts on there, 2 of which are Copilot Studio. And by the way, Copilot Studio is only autonomous now to an extent. There is no orchestration. There is not. It is deterministic, folks. If people say it's non-deterministic, it's not. It's deterministic.
Well, this is the Downer Jam podcast.
No, screw that.
This is the Downer Jam episode.
I want to fight.
I think we're going to get to a switching moment when all of a sudden we'll get that aha. I think what's happened is that, like anything, marketing needs to own phrases, needs to own words, etc. And so they go hard on this, even though the actual reality of what they're saying doesn't exist. Like I found it very interesting in Satya's podcast that he did in January this year. He talked about something that Microsoft, he feels, will solve this year, which is memory. AI, to get to its next level, needs to have memory. It needs to be able to go, you know what? I remember this happening. I remember that happening. And therefore that means something different. And I'm not seeing any of the big LLMs in market, the commercial, over the shelf, over the counter LLMs, none of them are really nailing memory yet. But I think that
over the counter, like pills, pills,
the paracetamol of the agentic race.
Yeah, it was OTC. OTC. I used to work in the pharmaceutical game for a while, and OTC drugs you didn't need a prescription for, over the counter. Yeah. So yeah, I think memory is going to solve a lot of that. But at the moment, if I've got to spend more time telling via triggers and do this, these are if-then statement-based automation.
It's deterministic.
If we look at this, from a business point of view, with our Microsoft hat on, if we were on the board, would go, right, this is our first stepping stone into some intent that we have. So I always say it's not agents, it's agentic light. It's agents with extreme seatbelts that you can't even get to the point of agents just yet. There is.
I like that, extreme seatbelts. That's good. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, but it's true, because there is. It's not truly autonomous. Okay, it's still triggers, it still flows. But what it can do is it can look at intent, right? So it has an element of it, but you can see where the route is going. And a bit like all Microsoft tools nowadays, they really polish it up They used to polish it up back in the day and then get it out. Now it's more, let's get it out and we'll improve it as we go. So, you can see where they're trying to head to. But I absolutely agree with you all, which is surprising, isn't it? Yeah. But it's not quite there yet. Andrew.
Just a little bit off topic. I was laughing, Will, when you used the phrase extreme seatbelts, and it reminded me of one of my sort of favorite humorous political moments from another time before Donald Trump had ever been elected president. And there was a guy in the U.S., a politician who I respect and admire, a guy named John Kasich, and he was running for president, and in a debate, right, he said something to the effect of, if I'm elected president, you should go out and buy yourself a seatbelt because we're going to be moving so fast it's going to make your head spin, or something like that. And it left all of these commentators in the news the next day being like, where do you buy a seatbelt? Like, where do you go if you just want the seatbelt? I'm sorry. So a little bit of a rat hole, but it made me giggle.
The reality is, though, right now, that if we did have truly autonomous agentic AI, we would be struggling for adoption, and it's good that we have time to breathe and get responsible AI frameworks in place, and the technology maturity and the mindset maturity.
The biggest skill I feel that you can't, I haven't seen a course on it, and I'd love to find a course on it, that people are going to need to learn is the ability to truly delegate.
Yes.
And I don't think people are ready for what delegation means. And if you've never been in a managerial position, delegation is not just go do something. It's putting the parameters around what my expectation is of an outcome, what my time frames are. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes around good delegation that gets meaningful results. It's almost like, in Scrum, what's the definition of done? When you come back to me and say you did what you said you were going to do, does it meet this bar at a minimum, or did you go beyond type thing? And I think there's going to be a need when we go to this autonomous, which I think is definitely on the near horizon.
It's really close.
I think we're going to have to get really good individually at delegating and knowing how to put all the nuance around delegating.
So I want to tell you something, man. Like, maybe we should wrap with this. I was chatting to a very good friend at Microsoft, and she said to me the other day, she's like, because I was whinging about exactly this, right? Because I do get mad and I do get angry, and the reason I get angry is because I have to spend hours and hours and hours and hours. Literally, I've spent nearly 2 weeks on this trying to figure out where this invisible thing is. And she said, "Would you prefer that we were behind or way ahead in our messaging?" And I said, you know what? I'd prefer you were way ahead. And I agree with that because I think she's right.
Yeah. Love it. It signals intent.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It does signal intent. So
exactly
it gives us something to go for. And if I hadn't been in the position where I was so bummed out about trying to figure out how these things connected, I do have a message behind it right now, and I do know how they work, right? But I spent so much time researching, and actually I'm grateful to Microsoft for being ahead and having that ahead message, right? And I think it is important.
I think you're on point. And what I'm going to say is not an intentional flex, but it's going to flex. I'm 50% through writing a book on Copilot adoption for Microsoft Press.
Yes.
And it's forced me to use Copilot much more than I ever have, right? My default tool has always been ChatGPT. I'm on the $200 a month. Yeah. In fact, I just saw that Anthropic has bought out overnight a $200 a month plan as well. I use Perplexity. I use Anthropic. I use, what's Elon's one?
Grok. Yeah.
But what I have found is most of these models are verbose in their response, right? They are
hugely
put like just so much fluff and, self-flagellation type stuff in their prose. What's that?
the ultimate mansplainer.
Yeah. What I have found Copilot, and Copilot is really now becoming my favorite tool, because the more I use it inside my organization data, it is actually getting smarter.
Yeah, it is.
And it is really concise, and it is not full of fluff. Like, one of my kind of secret hacks at the moment is that if I want to write something, I open up Teams, I set a meeting with myself, I put on transcription, I turn off the camera, and I will talk for 30 minutes to it. Like, I'll just riff all the ideas that are going on around whatever topic I'm focused on. And then I close it down. I'll give it a couple of minutes and I'll go back. And here's the transcription. But next to it is a summary of my thoughts. And then I go into prompting against it. And I'll go, listen, don't take out any of my storytelling, any of my voice, anything that's me. But can you structure my thoughts because they were really haphazard? Yeah. And what comes out is fucking amazing. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
it is
amazing.
Let's just stop for a minute to observe that a 30-minute meeting in which you're the only one doing all the talking sounds like a typical meeting for Will.
Okay, you fools. Big love.
I'm sorry. I couldn't. All right, are we done?
Yeah, we done.
It's awesome, guys. I love it. Well, I'm so pleased to see you back online. It's,
I've missed you guys. I have. This is beautiful.
We missed your Musk.
I can't wait. May is coming at us like a freight train, and we get to hang out again.
Yes, we do.
Dynamics Minds.
I love it. See you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.
Peace. Later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning into the Ecosystem Show. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and thought-provoking. And maybe you had a laugh or two. Remember, your feedback and challenges help us all grow. So don't hesitate to share your perspective. Stay connected with us for more innovative ideas and strategies to enhance your software estate. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries and creating value. See you on the next episode.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, "Since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income." Or from Parves, who shares, "I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now." Sign up at arcor.nz365guide.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.